Hi everyone, Tracy DW here. I truly believe that an increasing number of us are making progress with our learning journey to address our miseducation about history. And if you're an educationalist like me, you're probably also contributing to the dialogue and practices that will make gradual changes to the focus of the history curriculum and also the way in which it is delivered. Changes which will enable learning about the past to explore both the real and imagining of the equal value of all representations of race and culture, and changes to our curriculum which will celebrate all diversity through a balance of perspective within a global context. However, for every action which moves us 3 steps forward toward realising this, there are moments which happen that make us all feel that we have just moved 2 steps back. One such moment was the conversation between Ngozi Fulani and Lady Hussey. This and the question, "Where are you from?" has been discussed and analysed by laymen and media circles throughout the previous week. Was it an example of blatant racial abuse, or a clumsy, half-hearted attempt to make interesting conversation? What we do not know is what preceded the conversation or what was said afterwards, and so it has been highlighted and concentrated on, annotated with the fine pen of countless perspectives. The conversation in which Miss Ngozi found herself became more fraught when "Where are you from?" soon became "Where are you really from?" I began to think about the possible implications of asking this question for Miss Ngozi and how this question could be perceived. I began to say the question with a different emphasis on certain words because, as we know, there is also meaning in the emphasis. Where are you really from could imply that you could only come from one or a select group of places from around the world. Where are you really from may imply that you must account for where you come from, but this accountability does not necessarily apply to others. And "where are you really from?" portrays the individual as one who needs to make some sort of disclosure, one that they are reluctant to make about their identity and are therefore suffering from some sort of imposter complex rather than imposter syndrome. When it comes to conversations, every single one of them has a context, and its meaning, significance, purpose, relevance, and appropriateness relies upon it. Now, where are you from is a question that we have all been asked on many occasions. I personally cannot tell you how many times I've been asked this question, but I began thinking about its meaning in relation to context. When asked, "Where do you come from?" at a job interview, it is an opportunity to project your social disposition and share those anecdotes that will help the interviewer determine whether or not you are the right candidate for their company and can offer them what they're looking for. When asked, "Where are you from?" while you're on holiday, it is to clarify that you are not from the local area or that particular country, as your appearance in dress and possibly your inability to speak the language and knowledge of local customs will be apparent to those who do come from the locality. Ironically, the more homogeneous in makeup of a particular group of people are, the more the question, "Where are you from?" is commonly asked. A prime example of this is in the Caribbean, where it is necessary to determine which island your parents or grandparents are from and where do you reside now, as simply having a darker or lighter skin tone is not a determining factor. When I last visited my mother's homeland of Jamaica in 2017, and my father's homeland of St. Vincent the following year, the locals automatically knew that I was not from the island, simply because they had never seen me before. If I had been born and raised on either of these islands, they would have known who I was and would not have had to ask, "Where are you from?" Where the group is not so homogeneous and there is a diverse mix of race, culture and dialects, you need to ask, "Where are you from?" to determine your interests, who you work for, what you do, why you're here, why you do what you do, who you know, who might know you. The question isn't really about its literal meaning, but reveals the hardwired biological and social desire to find common ground and similarities with each other and connect to form relationships with like-minded others. Where are you from is not a question, but an invitation for you to tell your story, because at that particular point in time, you are now being read. But the story that you tell should be the one that you choose to tell, not a story that is being imposed upon you, but the one you tell of your own free will. With an invitation from the Queen Consort, Miss Fulani was provided with the context to share the story that she wanted to tell. The story of her own experience with establishing Sister Space, her achievements to date, and the many lives that her charity has impacted. However, the story which was imposed upon the charity boss made her feel singled out and undermined. Why? The story from the imposed conversation was neither relevant nor appropriate in relation to the context within which Miss Fulani found herself. It wasn't just out of place with the context, but was absent of the fundamental knowledge that in all people of colour, in this case Africans, are not the same. History teaches us that there is a clear distinction between those who are African and those who are of African descent but acknowledge their heritage as African. Two groups of people whose experience of colonialism and empire follow two chronologies running parallel to each other. One group remained in Africa and suffered oppression in their own land, while the other group was carried away from Africa and experienced oppression in foreign lands. Each of these two chronologies embody different experiences of slavery, emancipation, revolution, nationalism, and journeys toward independence, as well as the heroes, villains, and freedom fighters who fought for it. This is so fundamental to understanding African and world history, but it is often overlooked. Whether you are African or belong to the African diaspora and have African heritage, like myself, should we be able to face questions such as, "Where are you really from?" and answer in ways that tell our story to turn the conversation around? Could these forms of microaggression be an opportunity to claim back those 2 steps that we often seem to lose out on and regain them and continue to progress toward everyone learning about the past, showing the equal value of all representations of race and culture, and celebrate all diversity through a balance of perspective within a global context? From the Haitian Revolution to Nova Scotia, to the Napoleonic Wars, to the Anglo-Ashanti Wars, and to both World Wars, from the Windrush to the Second Chemurenga, and all the way to the Wind of Change and beyond. When we are asked the question, "Where do you really come from?" we know that our legacy is not restricted to any one particular location, so we are able to answer, "Where do I really come from?" I come from wherever I've made my mark, contributed, and made an impact to make this world a better place. That's where I come from, and I'm happy and honoured to be here. If you liked this podcast, then stay on this listening platform and check out my other podcast episodes related to this one, such as The Book of Negroes, How Africa Came to Nova Scotia from Season 1 and Victorian Revolutionaries from the second season, and a more recent episode, Reimagining Our Representation from our current season. All 3 episodes explore my perspective on some of the events which affected the ancestors of those of us who are of African heritage, otherwise known as the African Diaspora. And don't forget what I call the heart and soul of the Stories to be Told movement. My stories, or poetic narratives, Caribbean Wind, Caribbean Rush, Nights at the Round Table, the Berlin Conference 1884, and Gone with the Wind, Macmillan's Speech for Change. They're all available on the website in both Kindle and paperback formats, and also the publication of the latest 4 titles. If you want to find out more, just visit storiestobetold.com and check out the learning platforms for The Journey's End, Giving Back Hong Kong, Bite from the Big Apple, A Story for New York, Hope for Zimbabwe, Arise the Phoenix, and A Story for South Africa. Along with my learning programme that I've created as part of the diverse curriculum for the London Borough of Hackney called Let's Go for a Walk, I'm proud and excited to announce my nomination for Best Authoress of 2022 from Aspiring Authors. A new learning programme and a nomination is a great way to end 2022 and also begin the 3rd season of this podcast. And to mark both occasions, I'll be creating a brand new promotion for all my listeners in the new year. If you want to hear an audio version of the learning programme for the Hackney Diverse Curriculum, just revisit my 2nd season of the podcast and listen to the episodes Let's Go for a Walk Parts 1 and 2. And my analysis and reflections about the programme in the follow-up episode, Let's Talk About the Walk. The learning programme introduces children and young people to the importance of using historical walks in their local area to uncover the presence of African and Caribbean individuals of the past. The lesson sequence and activities are available on Hackney's Diverse Curriculum website. Now, if you work in a school, then your school can simply apply for an account and sign up. But if you're an individual, you can still also get to set up an account by requesting access. If this is your first time listening, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us. And if you like listening to these podcast episodes and want to leave a comment or ask me a question, just visit storiestobetold.com and leave an audio message using the SpeakPipe link and let me know what you think. And while you're on the website, why not register for your free samples of my first 4 titles and you can opt in to our email list. Feel free to like, follow and share us on social media when you visit the website. Just click on whichever social media link you would like to follow us on. And as always, it is a pleasure and a privilege to share my learning journey with you in this podcast series. And I encourage you to either begin or continue your own. History is a matter of fact or perspective. I'm Tracy DW and this is a Stories to be Told podcast. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed. Thanks so much for listening and I'll see you on the next page.